Are Manchester United preparing a massive 60 million swoop for Inter's star defender? Meanwhile, shockwaves are hitting Anfield as Arne Slot faces the sack at the end of the season, and a shock replacement might already be waiting in the wings. Plus, Robert Lewandowski looks set to trade La Liga for a massive move to Serie A. Just as Mikel Arteta pulls off absolute business perfection by securing Julian Brandt from Borussia on a free transfer. All this and much more in today's episode. Let's try to hit 200 likes on this video, and we'll be back tomorrow with more transfer madness. Hit that like button and let's dive in. Robert Lewandowski is genuinely at a crossroads right now. From everything we can see, even he doesn't fully know which way he's going to turn. On paper, his Barcelona deal runs until the 30th of June 2026. However, there's a crafty little clause stitched into the contract that triggers an automatic extension all the way through to the summer of 2027. Crucially, that extension is entirely one-sided in the club's favor. There is a gentleman's agreement between player and club allowing Robert to reject that extension whenever he likes. Based on current indications, though, that's easily the least likely outcome we're looking at. While this plays out quietly in the background, the transfer carousel around Lewandowski is picking up serious pace. Milan have been sniffing around the Polish striker for a good while now. That's no secret to anyone, but Romano and Moretto are both reporting that Juventus have stepped into the frame in a meaningful way over the last few weeks. The old lady wants to extend Vlahovic and build a lethal partnership around him with a seasoned, top-level center forward. Lewandowski slots into that blueprint perfectly, which explains why Juventus have been making discreet approaches to his camp. The striker himself is not rushing this decision for anyone. This isn't really a money conversation, it goes much deeper than wages. Robert is weighing up how he wants to end his career and where he wants to build his life. It's not just about what's on the contract, but what actually comes after football. He's been in genuine, substantive talks with MLS clubs already. America is a massive pull for him, both in terms of the financial package and the lifestyle opportunity of planting roots somewhere that works for his family long term. This has stopped being about goals. It is about the life that comes after the final whistle. From the other side, Joan Laporta, the presidential candidate at Barcelona, is ready to put one more season on the table for Lewandowski, and his case isn't without merit. Sure, Robert isn't quite the unstoppable force he once was, and nobody is pretending otherwise. Still, 14 goals from sporadic starts is a figure that absolutely demands your attention. The man's goal-scoring instinct is simply written into his DNA. Even in this slightly older, more selective version of himself, he remains physically strong, tactically sharp, and devastatingly cool in front of goal. Offers are flying in from every continent: Saudi Arabia, the States, Italy. Yet if he does choose to stay in Catalonia, a serious wage reduction is going to be unavoidable. That leaves one massive decision sitting at the heart of this saga. Does the comfort of home and the familiar surroundings of Barcelona win out? Or does the lure of a completely fresh challenge in the final stretch of an extraordinary career end up proving impossible to ignore? Liverpool kicked off the season in a way that had the whole football world licking its lips. Autumn, top of the Premier League, fresh faces through the door. It genuinely looked like the beginning of something special. But even then, if you squinted hard enough, the whole thing felt like it could shatter at any moment. Arne Slot worked out pretty sharpish that his side were getting torn apart in open play. He wound back the attacking ambition and switched to a much more conservative setup. The trouble is, the defense never actually got tighter as a result, and the attack got noticeably blunted in the process. This leaves an incredibly awkward middle ground. They can't score freely, yet they're still conceding far too often. According to those close to the club, the hierarchy had already accounted for the possibility of a rough season. While the outside world was busy totting up how much stronger the squad looked after the summer business, Michael Edwards was quietly penciling in a dip as part of the rebuilding process. There is a massive difference, though, between anticipating turbulence on a spreadsheet and watching it play out in real time. Liverpool are now genuinely in danger of missing out on the Champions League. For a club of this size and ambition, that isn't just a setback. That is a full-scale crisis. You can write off a title challenge, and you can cope with a trophyless season. Top 5, however, is the absolute floor. It is the non-negotiable minimum, and dropping below it is simply unthinkable. If the Reds can't clear that bar, Slot will almost certainly be getting his P45. Truthfully, he might be on his way out even if they do scrape through. The football isn't developing. His press conferences don't exactly set pulses racing. The relationship with the fan base is frosty at best. casting a very large shadow over the whole situation is one Xabi Alonso, freshly available on the market. Liverpool tried to bring him to Anfield after Klopp walked out the door, but Alonso felt he had unfinished business at Bayer Leverkusen back then, and then Real Madrid swept in. His love for Liverpool, though, that's never gone anywhere. Spanish media are unanimous. Xabi is finally making his way to Anfield this summer, and I'm still sitting here waiting for the day I get likes from people watching this on their smart TVs. Frankly, the chances of Alonso landing in England right now are considerably higher than the chances of you peeling your hand off your stomach, tracking down the remote, and actually pressing that thumbs up. I genuinely love you lot. You are without question my most dedicated viewers. But your sofa-based sloth is the stuff of absolute legend. So here's the arrangement. Summon every ounce of willpower you possess and hit like with the remote right now. And I, magnanimously, will not spend the next 5 minutes moaning about my existence. OK Diario are putting it bluntly. Only lifting the Champions League trophy saves Slot from the chop, which after that, Galatasaray display is a very hard sell. The same paper points out that the Scousers were already reaching out to Alonso before he headed to Madrid, well before anyone was even breathing the word sacking in connection with Slot. Mundo Deportivo takes it even further, claiming Alonso has already shaken hands on a deal with Liverpool and will be replacing the Dutchman regardless of what happens between now and the end of the season. Bizarrely enough, that version actually holds together the most logically. The people running this football club aren't just counting medals. They're assessing the quality and trajectory of the football. At Liverpool, Xabi gets something Real Madrid flatly refused to give him. He gets genuine autonomy in the transfer market, the freedom to rebuild the system in his own image, and total authority over squad decisions, including the future and role of Mohamed Salah. This squad is naturally more pliable and receptive than the one at the Bernabeu. Nobody here is going to recoil at the mention of pressing, and nobody is going to drag their feet through a long tactical session either. Liverpool, in every meaningful way, is the environment in which Alonso can genuinely unlock his full potential as a manager. The match really couldn't be much more perfect. Mikel Arteta knows exactly how to flip the script in the transfer market depending on what the moment calls for. Last summer, Arsenal were absolutely throwing money around, spending a jaw-dropping £250 million to reshape the squad and operating like a club with zero financial ceiling whatsoever. Today, the mood coming out of North London is completely different. Metro are reporting that the Gunners have gone full pragmatist mode and are actively hunting premium free agents, with Julian Brandt firmly in their sights. The thinking is dead simple. Europe's elite clubs have quietly made the free agent route their go-to strategy whenever they can pull it off. It allows them to pick up top-level talent without triggering a massive transfer fee, keeping the budget intact for bigger moves down the line. On Brandt's end, his status is about as confirmed as it gets. Borussia Dortmund have made it official. The German is done in Dortmund after 7 years. The contract runs out, there is no U-turn coming, and he's walking out the door on a free this summer. Run through his stats since that move from Leverkusen in 2019, and you're looking at a genuinely serious attacking portfolio for a player who won't cost you a single penny in fees. Nearly 300 Dortmund appearances, 56 goals, and 69 assists across those 7 seasons. So, what's actually in this for Arsenal? It's all about the savage fixture list ahead of them. Arteta desperately needs a wide, deep squad to genuinely compete in the Premier League and across Europe without the wheels falling off come March. Brandt slots into that North London jigsaw nicely. He's a seasoned, technically gifted operator who can cover central positions or drift wide, making him a flexible asset for the kind of fluid, dynamic attacking football Arsenal play. Would he actually make their starting 11? Probably not as a regular. There are real questions about whether his defensive output can keep up with the relentless pressing demands Arteta places on every single player in this system. Tactical discipline isn't exactly Brandt's calling card, and the Arsenal boss has zero tolerance for players who go missing out of possession. But as a clever, experienced super sub who can come off the bench and carve open a tired defense with one disguise through ball, he'd be a brilliant weapon in that specific role. This isn't the kind of blockbuster deal that's going to crash social media when it lands. However, this type of shrewd, low-cost rotation signing is precisely what separates genuine champions from the clubs who just talk about winning things. Something is brewing at Tottenham that felt downright impossible recently. Christian Romero, the captain, the leader, The bloke who put pen to paper on a fresh 4-year deal just last August could actually be heading for the exit door this summer. Fabrizio Romano is reporting there are serious chances he walks, and this isn't some throwaway rumor that dies by midnight. Top clubs have been making contact, and the transfer is looking like a very real possibility. Looking at what Spurs have served up this season, it's difficult to be shocked. They're sat in 16th place, scrapping for their lives. For a player of Romero's standing, that has got to sting. From everything coming out, this goes well beyond just the league table. Romero is reportedly fed up with the lack of ambition, the constant nervous energy around the club, and the managerial merry-go-round that just won't stop spinning. Igor Tudor is now trying to glue things back together, but picking that up after the mess Thomas left behind is a genuinely thankless job. Separately, there's the whole Romero and the board situation, which by all accounts has gone seriously south. Things have reached a pretty ugly point, especially after he publicly had a go at the directors earlier in the season. Bridges don't tend to get rebuilt after moments like that. This isn't simply about clubs coming in with big offers. The real issue runs much deeper. The captain and the club have basically run out of road with each other. The queue of interested parties is already forming. Atletico Madrid have had their eye on the Argentine for a while, with Diego Simeone reportedly seeing him as the ideal leader to anchor that backline. Real Madrid and Manchester United are also keeping very close tabs. Tottenham's current valuation sits at around £60 million. The truly brutal part for the fan base is that the club is already bracing for this internally. A serious squad overhaul is coming this summer, and Romero is being eyed up as one of the main assets to fund that rebuild. Vinay Venkatesham has already dropped hints about getting the finances in order under the regulations. When you're 16th, your captain is unsettled and big money is sitting on the table, the club's decision could end up being far colder than anyone wants to believe. Liverpool are gearing up for a full-scale overhaul on the right flank, and the situation is impossible to ignore anymore. Mo Salah is just not hitting his prime level this season. The Egyptian king has dropped off. The chatter about his exit keeps getting louder, and that crucial attacking spot on the right is in real danger of being left wide open. This isn't a problem they can kick down the road. They need a replacement right now. Who inherits the keys to the right wing at the reigning Premier League champions? Liverpool's sporting director has been scouring the Spanish market, and one name is pinging loudly on the radar: Takefusa Kubo. Spanish sources have already been leaking concrete numbers, and the price tag is no joke. We're talking a massive €80 million that Liverpool are apparently willing to splash for the 24-year-old Japanese forward this coming summer. Let's put this into perspective. For Real Sociedad, that's an absolute jackpot. As much as the Basque club love their prized asset, trying to resist a check like that from England is going to be nearly impossible. Why Kubo of all people? Looking strictly at the numbers, 5 goal involvements across all competitions this season, you might raise an eyebrow and wonder what the fuss is about. Liverpool aren't buying numbers on a spreadsheet though, they're buying a profile. Down in San Sebastian, the Japanese winger has found the perfect setup to develop exactly the kind of skills that rip defenses to shreds. Elite dribbling, relentless runs through the lines, and proper creativity in the final third. He's a technically loaded, ready-made winger, built for the speed and chaos of English football. Even though Liverpool could really do with investing in a left-sided forward as well, Kubo is the man they currently see as the most exciting option on the right. People at the club are already branding him a future superstar. For Kubo personally, a move like this would be a one-way ticket to a completely different stratosphere. Right now, he's keeping his head down and staying focused on his matches with Sociedad, which is the professional thing to do. But when the champions of England come knocking and want you to be their main man on the right, that's not a decision you agonize over for long. Liverpool are desperate for fresh legs and creativity going forward, and Kubo is hungry to prove himself at the very top level. If those €80 million hit the table this summer, the Japanese star's move to England becomes nothing more than a matter of when, not if. Manchester United are tackling their left-back problem again. This summer, they've locked onto a target who could genuinely flip the whole dynamic on that side of the pitch: Federico Dimarco from Inter Milan. Football Transfers have put out a fresh report, and it's pretty direct. The Italian is United's absolute top priority for the summer window. On top of that, the feeling inside the club is that he's about as close to the best left-back in Europe as it gets right now. That sounds like a massive claim, but the numbers back it up. 36 games this season, 7 goals, 15 assists. Remember, we are talking about a defender here. That output is absolutely ridiculous. This is exactly the profile United have been desperate for over multiple years now. Managers rotate, squads get rebuilt, but that left-back slot keeps falling short every time United needs someone to actually contribute going forward. Dimarco, with his pinpoint deliveries and his habit of ghosting into the box at the perfect moment, that's the missing piece Old Trafford has been screaming out for. Pulling him away from Inter is obviously going to be a real battle. The report has United going in at 45 million euros with a willingness to stretch to 60 if Inter push back. Inter absolutely will push back because they're fighting hard to tie him down on a new deal through 2030 with a serious bump in wages. There's a potential opening here, however. Dimarco's contract only runs until 2027, which means if those renewal talks stall even slightly, United and every other big club in Europe will be straight in there trying to hijack the process. The one legitimate question that lingers is how Dimarco would cope with the Premier League. Putting in those numbers in Serie A with its more structured, positional defending is one thing. The relentless intensity of English football demands a completely different level of stamina, and that adjustment takes time, as it does for most players making that switch. While we're on the subject of people who clearly have unbelievable stamina, shout out to everyone watching this without subscribing because that takes serious dedication. Time to change your formation, get off the bench, and join the squad properly. Subscribe and hit the bell, bringing it back to Dimarco. United don't run a pure wingback system anyway, but his attacking instincts are a natural fit for what a modern fullback is expected to do. Ultimately, it comes down to this. United need an elite wide defender who can stretch backlines and create danger. If they pull this one off, that left flank goes from being a chronic weak spot to a genuine attacking weapon.